They're fast, furious,
outside clear,
exciting to watch, and even more thrilling to ride. These cars can reach speeds of up to 230 miles per hour. Kept on track by over 2 tons of downforce.
That was just incredible. You could totally feel the G-forces pulling your guts to one side. And as soon as we came out of here onto the track itself, you could feel the helmet just sucking up right off of your head. I'm Josh Klein, technology consultant and innovation specialist, and this is IndyCar Racing.
I'm here with exclusive access to the legendary Penske racing team. They're confident they've got the best cars and the best drivers.
It might seem like out on the tracks where the action is, but it's back here that a race is won or lost, in the garage.
All the cars have the same specifications and the same engines, so victory is all about tuning your car to work at its very best.
Every wheel, we can change the toe, the camber, the caster, the rear wing, the front wing, the shocks. There's millions of combinations.
But there's more to these cars than a shiny engine and a fancy set of slicks. There's a technology at work here that's revolutionized motor racing, allowing them to push these cars ever faster. It's a technology that's touched every aspect of our lives. Welcome to the link.
Understanding how everything around us came to be is like piecing together the ultimate puzzle. Because behind every invention, there's always a backstory, featuring brilliant minds, great civilizations, and extraordinary breakthroughs, all linking together to create the world we live in. Our story of the links leading up to the latest in IndyCar technology begins over 1,000 years ago with a revolution that changed an entire landscape.
On a morning like today, it's easy to imagine that the English countryside's always looked like this. I mean, it's just so timeless. But in fact, the landscape is always changing. And to see how, I'm going to take to the air.
I'm searching for evidence of something extraordinary, something that happened here over 1,000 years ago and left its mark on the land. In the first millennium, most of the fields in Britain were small and square. But then, everything changed.
There we go, that's what we're looking for, those long, narrow fields. They're unlike anything else in the landscape. Those started popping up around 800 AD or all over England. And it's not just here, it's all over Northern Europe. Why is that? What changed to make such a significant shift in the landscape?
The answer lay with the technology that the farmers of the time were using. And no technology was more important than the plow. The plow itself had been in use for many thousands of years. At its simplest, it was just a stick pulled by an animal that scraped a line in the soil.
This is a scratch plow, and it just about works, but it doesn't dig very deep. So the farmer has to come back and plow the whole field again at right angles.
which means he can't plow a very big area.
Now, while this primitive method of farming is just about okay during fine weather, it's completely unsuited to when the weather turns bad. Meaning that life for your average peasant is a decidedly precarious business. But then, around 800 AD, there appeared a groundbreaking new technology: the heavy plow. It might not look like much, but this early medieval technology changed the face of Europe. To discover why, I've met up with medieval historian Alex Langlands.
This is the plough, really, that took over from the scratch plough.
What's so good about it? I mean, why did it take over?
Being bigger, being heavier, it can cut a much deeper furrow. If you can get deeper, you can get down to moisture. So your plants have got a bigger root, therefore you're increasing the productivity of the plant.
All right, well, let's try it out.
Come on. Come on. One of the key components of this plough, if I can keep it straight, is the mould board.
Oh, this bit on the side there?
That's this board. What it's doing is it's throwing up the earth, OK?
Yeah.
And that earth is then burying any weed matter.
And then it turns it underneath that soil and it composts up.
Yeah.
Now it's time for me to have a go.
That's it, get into the work. That's it. That's it, that's looking good, that's looking good. Oh.
Yeah, definitely got some serious skidding going on.
And that's it. And, you know, you've got the right idea, though, there, pushing into it.
Yeah, just drive it in, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm managing pretty well, until I have to turn it.
This is one of the downsides of the heavy plough, turning it. Whoa, whoa. When you get to the end of the furrow, what you've got to do is turn an enormous team of oxen, OK, which have the turning circle of an oil tanker.
Yeah, I noticed they weren't really nimble.
And then you've got an enormous plough as well behind it to turn, and that's why you often find, with this type of plough, the field systems that you get...
Long and narrow.
Exactly, because really, you want to spend most of your day going in a straight line. You don't want to spend half of your day turning round at the end.
Well, that's not too bad. First time out of the gate. When you get it going right, it's not that hard. I mean, you're basically just guiding it along and the oxen are doing all of the work. I mean, I'm no farmer, but what we've got here, as opposed to what we got from the scratch plow, this is 1,000,000 times better.
As the heavy plow spread across Europe, it reshaped the landscape, but it also radically changed people's lives. Farmers could grow significantly more food, enough to feed their families and have some left over.
What do you do when you have a surplus? You take it to market.
This is the beautiful medieval city of Prague in the Czech Republic, one of Europe's top tourist destinations.
Like many cities, Prague begins life as a market town. Starting in the 10th century, farmers arrive, laden with surplus from their harvest, and they're looking to sell. But they're also looking to buy furs, maybe a hat, some household goods, some weapons.
Oh, hey. That's the most ornate slingshot I've ever seen.
And all this money changing hands draws brewers and bakers, artists and innkeepers, merchants and musicians, all drawn to the city by the prospect of making a fast buck.
And before you knew it, this influx of people transformed Prague from a humble market town into a bustling medieval city. And this wasn't only happening in Prague.
By the 14th century, the population of Europe was double what it was before the invention of the heavy plow, with more and more of those people choosing to live in the city, drawn by the excitement of urban life and the chance to make it rich. But life in a medieval city also had its dark side.
And just outside Prague is a grisly reminder of the price many people paid for moving to the city. This is Sedlitz Church, 40 miles east of Prague.
These are real human bones, and they've made everything out of them. You got skulls stacked everywhere. It's kind of mind-blowing just to see. And this is off the hook. This is just stacks and stacks and stacks of leg bones. You can't quite get your head around the fact that these were all people. And this, I read about this. This candelabra has every bone in the human body. There's something that's kind of oddly beautiful about it. There are the bones of 40,000 people here. Now that number is particularly phenomenal because in the 14th century, when most of these bones are dated from, 40,000 was about the population of Prague.
Most of the people here were victims of a wave of pestilence that swept the region in the 14th century. And many of those victims were from cities like Prague.
You see, the thing about medieval cities is they may have been wealthy, but they certainly weren't healthy.
For proof of this, you only have to head down beneath the city streets.
Oh, that's nice and got a fresh odor.
Flush a toilet in Prague, and this is where your waste ends up.
There are thousands of miles of sewer in this city. They're a superb engineering achievement.
But before there were sewers, all that waste had no place to go. So it ended up in the river or on the street.
The fact is, in the Middle Ages, cities were pretty toxic places to live. They were smelly, dirty, and overcrowded. The growing populations had swamped what little infrastructure there was.
While medieval cities might be some people's idea of hell, for one creature, it was more like heaven. The rat.
For all our modern cleanliness, today's cities are still rife with rodents. They live down here in the sewers, emerging at night to feast on our leftovers. But in the medieval city, with no sewers or refuse collection, rats were everywhere. And that was going to have profound consequences because the rats had fleas. And the fleas were carrying a deadly disease.
Today, we know it as the bubonic plague, more commonly known as the Black Death.
To show just what this disease could do to its victims, I'm going to come face to face with the plague for myself.
Hello.
Thanks to movie makeup artist Jenna Rage.
You're gonna give me the plague? Yes. All right, let's get going.
Not the actual disease, of course, just the visible symptoms.
So I'm just going to put some sweat on you.
Whose sweat is it?
So, just glycerin.
All right. At this point, you're a little bit sweaty, maybe you have a cold, you know, probably not looking your best. You know the children's rhyme, Ring Around the Rosy? Well, it's rumored that it refers to this rosy red rash that you get on your limbs. What is that?
These are going to be the small versions of the buboes.